Here we go, live in 2026. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back to the real world as everyone's finally finding their way back to work, or some people are on the 5th of January. Yeah, very excited to be back in 2026 and to be presenting again on It's Time to Lead Different and helping people understand leadership, the journey of evolution that's going to be required by everyone in 2026. I've actually very exciting news to share with all of you before we get into today's session. Just about finished I haven't finished all the edits. I'm just doing last minute chicken note scratching on the new book coming out. It's Time to Lead Different, a guide for trailblazers of revolutionary leadership. So that is coming out. This one I'm giving away for free. There will be an Audible version of it. The printed and digital copies will be available, I would imagine, by the first week of February. Just waiting on all the testimonials and endorsements and the forward to come in to finish off the book and then get it out there and available to everybody. Then I will be doing the Audible version of it. So very excited to share that with all of you. So 2026, this is the year to lead different. Now, please understand that in order for us to lead different, we can't ask people to lead differently, yet keep training people in leadership, or what we call leadership. We can't keep training them the way we used to and asking them to lead differently. All right. So if we want to lead different, we have to learn different. And that's what this session is about. I want to share with you on whatever platform you're watching this on is how to learn different. Okay. And I'm going to take you on a journey of evolution in understanding leadership, not only training and development and what we used to call leadership and everything, and the way that we train people versus how we should be doing it today. Okay, so we're going to go through that. I want to start off with a simple few series of questions, right? So first and foremost, what if we've gotten leadership development backward? What if we've been asking all the wrong questions? What if the answer isn't about knowing more, but about becoming more? Okay. So this is the challenge for 2026. It's not just about knowing more. Hi there. Thank you for joining in. Thanks for popping on. It's not just about knowing more. What it is about becoming more of who you're capable of as a leader. All right, because this is what your people want. They don't want you to come back and say, "Hey, I know more." They want you to come back and show them that you've become more. Okay, so let's pop up the slides here. So we're going to take you on this journey of evolution and understanding leadership. Where I want to start, hey everyone, thank you for joining in. Appreciate you, Mr. Gorilla and Rylan. Thanks for joining in. So let's talk about this. Here's traditional thinking in leadership today, right? Traditional thinking around leadership training today. Let me be clear on that first. Is that most people are going on these 1-day, 3-day, 5-day leadership courses and programs, okay? But by day 5, participants have likely forgotten most of what happened in day 1's content. There's so much information that needs to be consumed by the participant that information overload leads to poor retention. Your brain can barely process it, let alone retain all that information. And then there's actually limited time to practice or contextualize concepts in the real workplace because you're out of the office for the 5 days. Then when you get back into the workplace, 31 days later, you're likely to retain only about 21% of the actual original content that you consumed. And there's no structured reinforcement after the course. And learning also happens totally in isolation away from real workplace challenges. So it's really important to understand that this is what's happening in leadership training in the world today. Okay, and there's this thing called the forgetting curve. There was this scientist or researcher back in 1850s, Hermann Ebbinghaus. And what he did is he studied how humans remember or retain information. And he created this thing called the forgetting curve. He said within 20 minutes, people typically retain about 58% of the information. Okay? But after 1 hour, only 44% is retained. Then after 1 day, only 33%. Then after 6 days, 25%. Then after 31 days, you're lucky to have retained about 21% of the original information that remains in your memory. So if you imagine we're sending people away for a 1-day, 3-day, 5-day course on leadership, to train them. And just the fact that the way that we do these workshops and or leadership training programs is that there's a limited amount of retention to start with. Forgetting whether the content's good or not, the ability to retain that information is diminished over time very quickly. Okay? So firstly, we have to understand in the way that we've been training leaders today is primarily in most cases like this. Even in the full, hi everyone, thanks for jumping on board. Even in the full, if you do one full day a month for 8 months, that full day of leadership training is so hard for your brain to consume all that information, all right? Let alone process it, let alone actually be able to apply it. And here's the other challenge. Thank you. Here's the other challenge. Today's workforce is built for tomorrow's workplace. So not only do we have this traditional thinking about how we train human beings, now we have this next generations coming in and this new workforce. The world of work has changed. Right? Everything has changed, post-pandemic, now with AI, you name it, everything else has changed. And today's workforce is built for tomorrow's workplace, but it's not here yet. So we can't keep training, we can't train today's workforce with yesterday's workplace methodologies. So what is modern thinking? If we've looked at traditional thinking, what is modern thinking then? Well, modern thinking suggests that for effective learning, it often requires 3 to 7 repetitions, but please understand that these should be spaced out over a period of time rather than crammed. They need to be active rather than passive, and they need to be in different contexts and formats. So it's been widely said that spaced repetition is the mother of all skill. Okay? Not just repetition, 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 spaced repetition. You need to take a piece of information, have time to process it and think about it, then take that same piece of information again and do it again and do it again. This is why if you're a naughty boy at school like me and you had to write lines one after the other, it lost its impact over a period of time because there was no spaced repetition between writing the lines for the brain to be able to process the information. Okay? So any learning that you're going to do in 2026, please remember that it requires repetition. That repetition must be spaced out, okay? And that it needs to be active rather than passive. So once it's there, then you need time to act on it. So think about it, do something about it, learn from it, think about it again, do something with it, and then learn again. All right, and then make sure you're doing it in different contexts and formats to be able to embody that. So this is why it's time to lead different. Right? We can't do training the way we did it. There's a new way of thinking about the way that we should train people, but we also have to think about what does leadership actually mean in the world today. Now, a question I ask when I speak around the world and to businesses and on stages all around the world is, what does leadership mean to you? So when we think about that, what does leadership mean? Not what does it look like? What does the word leadership mean to you? And just think about that for a moment. What would leadership look like to you? What does it mean? Okay. And then when we discuss leadership with people, we use this as our definition for leadership. To us, leadership's all about helping other people become the best version of themselves to do their life's best work while they're in your care and beyond. Okay, so leadership's all about helping other people to become their best, to do their best while in your care and beyond. So when you look at that definition of leadership, where in there does it say that you need a position or title to demonstrate leadership? And hopefully you realize that it doesn't. You do not need a position or title to demonstrate leadership. What we want to be able to do is create all-around leadership, not more top-down leaders in our organization. The other part of this definition here of leadership is what it should tell you at the very end there. It says, while in your care and beyond. When you think about that, hopefully that starts to incite into your mind that it means I actually care about you as a human being first and an employee second, right? So I don't need a position or a title to demonstrate leadership. We can have all-around leadership in our organization. We can have an organizational culture where everybody's lifting everybody up. And we can actually look at each other as human beings first and employees second, right? What is the human first response in your organization? And here's the thing about human first organizations. In the world today, with AI as well, when you think about your competitors or anybody else out there doing similar work to you in this world, they can copy your bricks and your mortar, they can copy your tech stack, they can copy your products and services, they can copy your marketing, they can copy every single thing about your business except for one thing. What's the one thing that they can't copy? Well, that is your ability to capture the spirit of your people. Okay, so that is your one true sustainable competitive advantage, is your ability to capture the spirit of your people. So it's really important to understand that it's your culture, obviously, that is your one true sustainable competitive advantage. So if you don't have a human leadership process in your organization that will help capture the spirit of your people, you are not investing in your one true sustainable competitive advantage, even in a world with AI. Because let me assure you of one thing, businesses do not run out of money. Businesses run out of ideas and innovation. And ideas and innovation come from people, not budgets, and not AI. So it's a finding game, not a funding game for your business. So if you're looking to get the best ideas and innovation in your organization, well, that's going to come from your people. And you can't manage ideas and innovation out of people. You can lead people to come up with really great ideas and innovation. It requires human leadership, not management. Because the problem we have with leadership today is most of what we call leadership is just modern management practices. Okay, please understand that we lead people and we manage resources, and people are not a resource. We should have resources for humans, not humans as a resource. We've been trying to manage things that shouldn't be managed. We shouldn't have to manage people, right? We should be able to lead people. You can't manage spirit. You can't manage belonging, right? You can't manage somebody into greatness. That takes leadership. And so in an organization, when AI can take care of a lot of the doing stuff going forward and a lot of the management stuff going forward, what's going to be left is the human stuff. So our leadership development must be tied to the leadership stuff. Yet if you look, the human stuff, but if you look at most leadership courses or programs out there today and certificates and credits, most of them, the content is fixed on management theories. There's very little people leadership stuff in there. So what I'd like to introduce you to is another way of thinking. So this is our Leadership Evolution Action Plan. I'm going to share with you how we structure leadership development with our clients that we have all around the world. This is something that we've been doing with our clients for many, many years now, all around the world in different countries. For someone like myself, who's a leadership practitioner, I've been doing leadership for 30 odd years across 3 continents, across multiple disciplines of organizations and organizational types. As a practitioner, I'm not a theorist, I'm not an academic. This has all been learned from working with human beings. Okay? And what we realized in the work that we do with our clients, and that just lost a little internet glitch there. The reason why what we do works where traditional training fails is that what we do is on bite-sized learning that sticks, right? It has real-world application. As practitioners, this is the stuff we've used in the real world. It's not just theory, right? That there's peer accountability, because I assure you that checklists do not lead, right? And then we've created our own proprietary formula of content times context, which will equal the concept. And I'll share with that in a moment. And then we look at monthly coaching in the flow of work, not away from it. We also make sure that there's full access to our Circle Leadership Toolbox and all the other tools and resources that the leader could need or want to help them become the best version of themselves to do their own life's best work while in our care and view. And it takes just about 4 hours per month of focused commitment. Because one of our core philosophies around leadership development going forward in human-based organizations is this: less is more often. I'd rather you focus on less and achieve more with that and do that more often than take as big gouging chunks of leadership content that aren't going to actually achieve what you want them to do, and you're not going to be able to apply it all at once anyway, and come back knowing more but not doing more or becoming anything more than what you were before you left, other than just having more knowledge. So less is more often. And then it works within our formula of content times context equals concept. Okay, so you'll learn a piece of content, you put it into your context. So we take our content and put it into your context, and then you develop actions to embed it. So then you create ownership of the concept. And we're going to go deeper into this in a moment. Let's talk about the less is more concept to start with. First and foremost, please understand this: that the 80-20 principle, the 20-80 principle, that Pareto, the Italian economist, found that 20% of Italy's population owned 80% of the wealth of the country. He took that and he started studying other parts, and he found it as a rule of thumb that 20% of the things you do will produce 80% of the results. So the same rule applies into leadership development. If we're sending people away to these 1 3-day, 5-day courses, what we choose to do is we find the 20% that will give you the 80%. And then what we do is we just focus in on that 20% so you can get at least 80% of the results. So that's the less piece. We're going to focus on less, and the 80% is you're going to achieve more. Because here's the thing, if you go for even a 1-day thing, if 20% of it is really the most important stuff, right, of an 8-hour day, so you're there for like an hour and a half of the day is the most important stuff, and the remaining 6.5 hours, whatever it is of the day, right, 7.5-hour day, whatever, let's just go 2 hours, and the remaining 6 hours of your day that you're at this training course is only going to produce 20% of the things that are really going to have an impact for you. Wouldn't it make sense to take that other 6 hours and put it back into the original 20 and exponentially get even greater results from the 20% that produced the 80%? That's what we believe, which is why our process is designed on the 20% that will give you the 80, then freeing up your time, the remaining 6 hours, to spend it investing it in embedding the 20% that gives you the 80, instead of just getting a whole bunch more content that's only going to help you another 20%. Just didn't make sense to us. The math was backwards. So then here's how the process looks when it's in play. We teach some content to you as an individual. You do some individual learning of some content over 2 weeks. Then you go to a group session where you're educated on and contextualize that into what does that mean for you in your workplace. And then you leave that session with an action plan that you have developed to embed that concept back immediately for the remaining 2 weeks of that month. So every month you'll spend a couple of weeks learning some content that you'll do repetitively. You'll have a group session where you're contextualizing it. What does that mean to me in my organization? You're working with peers in other organizations. You're learning from each other and getting that. And then you're developing your action plan to put in play for the next 2 weeks to embed that concept. And then guess what? You take another piece. So what does that look like on a bigger scale? So as an individual, you'll learn some content. It's on a video structure. There's an explanation of the information. There's tools and resources and templates to use. And, once again, 3 to 7 times, say 4 times, twice a week over each 2 weeks. If you can do 3, it's even better. Of watching that piece of content, which could be like a 10-minute piece of content to absorb, but you do it multiple times to start taking ownership of the content, right? To start embodying that information into your mind. Then you come along to the group coaching session where you then are with peers into groups and you're breaking out and you're sharing what does that look like for you? How would you use it? How do they use it? So you can learn from each other, to contextualize that immediately, and then develop your action plan to walk straight out of that group session online to go right back to your workspace, wherever it is you're working from with your team, and start embedding that concept immediately because you've developed an action plan. Then next month you take another piece. If you look at the diagram on the right, and then you do the same thing, and then you take another piece and you keep doing that. And then over a period of time, you create a transformation from who I am to who I can become. And this is how you start to transform into the leader that you're capable of becoming. You're steadily and progressively increasing your capability, thus your capacity for greatness will expand. So what does the Leadership Evolution Action Plan cover? So it's really important to go let's talk about that structure. Let's talk about content, right? Firstly, when you think about the concept of leadership, when we talk about building leadership depth and strength in organizations, please understand we're not talking about more layers of leaders. We're talking about going deeper into the concept of leadership itself. And there's 3 layers of leadership as a concept. First layer is leadership of self. It is well known to have been said that you can't lead anybody else until you learn how to lead yourself. So the first thing that we talk about in the Leadership Evolution Action Plan is leadership of self, is learning how to lead yourself and how to become very self-aware of who I am, how I think, what my communication styles are, how my mind works and what's important to me, where my comfort zone is, and learning all those sorts of things. Because then once you've learned about yourself, you then can go and lead teams. So then you can become a leader of teams. You learn how to lead yourself. Now you know how to help yourself become your best, to do your best while in your own care and beyond. You can now go help others do the same. And then you will learn how to be a leader of teams, right? So leading a group of humans, right? So I learned how to lead myself, then I learned how to lead a group of humans. Then once I understood that, then I can lead the business. Then I can take that collective wisdom of all those humans and help to take that that collective there to form the greater good, because an organization or a business is just a bunch of human beings all working together for some greater good or common goal. So now I can then learn how to lead the business. So we go leadership of self, leader of teams, then lead the business, all built into the same formula. And then at each layer, of course, there's certain sessions that we'll go through, and there's tools you can see in the toolbox. So the leadership of self, there's things that we take you through. Then there's a bunch of tools available to you. Then when you go into leader of teams, then there's sessions to take you through, and then there's a whole bunch of tools. Then we go into lead the business, there's a whole bunch of sessions and a whole bunch of tools. Right? And then in each of the toolboxes or in the tools, there's usually a video that is set up like this. You'll go into there and you'll be able to see and access the video to learn the content. And as you go through that, you'll see that there's a video here. This one's 9 minutes and 49 seconds explaining the actual piece of, or teaching the piece of content. In this case, it's how your mind works. And then each of those sessions, there's the video lesson, there's a description, tells you what it's all about. Then there's the diagrams, models, or templates that you can download and access. And there's a space to leave a comment or ask a question. You go, hey, what about this? What about that? And any one of our team of coaches can jump in and answer those questions straight away. Or your peers who are also in there can go in and say and share experiences of what they've done. Remember, this is about peer accountability as well, and peer support. And part of the contextualization is learning from each other. But every session is set up with that. So you have a video, you'll have an understanding of what it's about, tools, models, templates for you to use to follow along in the video, to practice and embody the information. And then you have a place to leave comments or ask questions. And this is before even the group stuff happens. Okay? So we want to develop that leadership, depth, and strength. Hi, Gisela. Yeah, this is a deep truth often overlooked when selecting leaders. It's one of the most important aspects of true leadership. Thank you for sharing that. 100%. Absolutely, it is. Appreciate you being here. So we want to look at developing leadership depth and strength in your business. Remember, so this is about how do we actually get deeper into the concept of leadership, and then how do we create more leadership in our organization? Okay, so we want to create more strength across the organization and go deeper into the concept of leadership. And so here's a little bit of a close-up, I guess, of that session. So once again, there's a video doing the tutorial. 9 minutes and 49 seconds. And you have to watch that 2 times a week over things, so 4 times on average to get the 3 to 7 repetitions spaced out. And of course, as you do that, there is worksheets that you'll download and you'll be able to follow along and draw and design and do everything as I'm whiteboarding it there with you immediately. And then we provide an action plan, but you can develop your own. So each session will have its own action plan at the end of it. Here's some things that you can think about to do to put it in play immediately. Just as a template, but then you develop your own. Okay, and then you'll have access to the toolbox. So every tool that you may want or need to support all the learning that you're doing is available in the toolbox as well to all people attending our Leadership Evolution Action Plan process. These tools, templates, resources, models. I wish there was a resort in there. So you have access to all these things that you can use that will help you. And the toolbox is developed by people asking questions. Hey, do you guys have something that will help us with this? If it's in our wheelhouse, we create it and then we share it with everybody. So this toolbox is expanding continually. It's evolving continually by the needs of the people who are going through the process. So real practitioners like yourself who are leading teams are asking for things, and we're all adding value to the toolbox. So the toolbox continues to evolve as we do as leaders as well. So it's a very symbiotic relationship between the toolbox and the process that people go through. And some of the concepts that we work through with people are these. So first, understand, as we've already alluded to, it's about how do we help create a culture where people are looked at as humans first, employees second. How do we start looking at having resources for our humans and not treating our humans as a resource? How do we make sure everyone in our organization has a personal connection to the public sense of purpose? How do we look at what people punch out rather than when they punch in and out of our organization? We're so busy about absenteeism or presenteeism when we should be thinking about, or in busyness, when we should be thinking about productivity. Okay, we should be learning, how do we learn how to delegate outcomes to people and not tasks to people? How do we get people involved in the work, actually involved in decisions about the work? How do we move away from this performance management mindset and develop a performance leadership mindset in our organization? Instead of attacking behaviors, how do we help address the gap in thinking and close that gap to help our people become their best and do their best while in our care and beyond? then how do we also create a culture and brand relationship so everybody can fall in love with why we do what we do in our organizations? So this is what the Leadership Evolution Action Plan is about. So my question is, are you ready to start? Are you ready to start to learn different? If you agree that it's time to lead different, then please, I hope you understand that we must learn different. We can't take a new way of thinking and shove it into our old way of doing and expect it to work. We can't keep training leaders the way we trained them in the past. We can't use the same content. We can't use the same process, all right, to help to prepare for what the future needs from our organizations, what the future generations need, what the market needs, the way that our organizations will be structured going forward into the future. If you want to maintain that competitive advantage, the one true competitive advantage that you actually have, which is your ability to capture the spirit of your people, you need human-centric leadership, not modern management practices. Therefore, we must change the content. We must change the process. If we want to lead different, we need to learn different, not only by process, but also by content. Because we have to set our organizations up to succeed and thrive, not just survive into the future. So this is what the Leadership Evolution Action Plan is designed to do for you and your organization. If you're interested to learn more about the LEAP and how it may benefit you or your organization, please just put a hashtag LEAP in the comments wherever you are. I'll reach out to you and we can have a session, have a quick chat. We do have a cohort that will be kicking off at the end of January, beginning of February. We already got people signing up for that. There's still room for a few more people to join. If you'd like to participate in our Leadership Evolution Action Plan, you're welcome to do so. We just need you to reach out with a hashtag LEAP and we'll have a chat with you about what that might look like for you and your organization. Other than that, thank you so much for joining in this week. I'll be running these every week going forward as we keep trying to get the message out there that we can't keep training people the way that we have in the past. And look out for It's Time to Lead Different. Let me just stop sharing. That might be easier. It's Time to Lead Different, which will be coming out shortly. That will be available to you digital. I'm giving it away for free. Part of the whole work that we're doing in this world is really want people to understand that part of we just can't keep leading the way that we have, and offer a new idea, and with hope that we can evolve the world of work and actually create workplaces and work that positively impacts people on the planet, right? Because work should be something that we find joy in. Work should be something that gives our lives a sense of meaning. It should be more than just a paycheck, right? So want to make sure that we can give people all the information necessary to start to build organizations that aren't just the best in the world, but the best for the world. And the organizations where people will want to line up to be a part of, where they feel like they belong, where we can be human again back in the workplace. So if you're with me, please become one of the trailblazers of revolutionary leadership that we're looking for in the world today. Reach out with a hashtag LEAP and we'll talk to you about how you can start to learn how to evolve yourself and or your team of leaders in your organization to create those types of organizations together. On that, see you guys all next week. Thanks for everyone for joining in and for all your comments.